We are at 3 o'clock. Let's go ahead and call this meeting of the Churchill County Library Board of Trustees into session. And let's start with a Pledge of Allegiance. All right, so that brings us to the first point of public comment in the meeting. Is there anybody that is here that would like to make a public comment? Oh. No? Okay. Hearing none, let's go ahead and go into a roll call of members. Let's start down there with you, Maddie.
Sari Kaler.
Ryan Swarzik.
Jessica Rowe.
Sue Segura.
All right, thank you, guys. And verification of the posting of the agenda, Crystal?
Crystal Machado, for the record, the agenda was posted on July 17th between the hours of 2 and 5 at all the locations listed on the agenda in accordance with statutes.
Thanks, Crystal. Consideration and possible action regarding the approval of agenda as submitted or revised. Do we have someone that would take a motion on that?
Prior to someone doing so, as a reminder, the item 7A has been withdrawn, and so it would need to be a motion to consider, or a motion to approve the agenda as revised.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as revised.
Thank you, Ryan. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Sari. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion carries. Now, for number 7, consideration and possible action regarding the approval of minutes. This is the one that was struck from the agenda, correct? Okay, so we'll just move on past that one and into the Library Board of Trustees report. Does anybody from the board have items that they would like to report?
Sue Segura. First of all, Patsy, I want to thank you for stepping up and doing this for our community. And I visited with her yesterday and sat in the library for about an hour and just was watching. And I can't thank you enough. She manages like me. She had stick-em notes all over the room, and she said, here's what I need to do. She's taken initiative. We are so thankful. I wanted to personally thank you. And I did a little quantitative research while I was there. I went to visit, and I said, what do you like about the library? Oh my gosh, everybody's raving, and including employees. So I want a big high five and thank you.
I appreciate that, Sue. Does anybody else have anything that they would like to add to the report?
I want to say that the graphs in our materials here are really helpful. I think it's really neat to see how many e-audio books are checked out. So I think the graphs are real helpful.
Me too.
Thank you, Maddie. Does anybody else have anything that they'd like to add to the report?
I want to second what Sue said. Thank you, Penny, for coming. It's going to be a good transition period. Thank you very much for that. I also wanted to comment on the geology program that the library did at the first of the month. It rocked. It was so awesome. I also wanted to, I'm so thankful. I don't know, I think Jay might have gotten this together, but there's going to be an author series I read in the calendar on the 19th of August, and I forgot to mention last month about Jessica's author series. It was amazing and very well attended. So I'm hoping the same will happen for this next author. I'm just super excited where we're going, so thank you.
Why was Shakespeare there today? I didn't have time to stop. You're doing a program for kids?
Yes.
Oh, good. Oh, awesome.
Is it the traveling Shakespeare series that they do and they come and do the performances with the kids? That is always,
Writing some funding, I saw the check, I don't know exactly, but I know that they have my hand in that as well.
I appreciate that. Anybody else have anything that they'd like to add to the trustees' report? I could put this down. Okay, and so for me, on my end, I just wanted to express appreciation to the county and to Penny. I've been a little thin on the ground for the last several days. I wasn't feeling particularly well, and Penny kept me very up to date and was very, very good at taking all of this in stride. It's not been an easy transition in a lot of ways. It's very complicated, but she makes it look a lot easier than I'm sure it feels sometimes. And then the resources and support from the county have been really helpful to me in being able to understand where we're going next and how to keep that stable. So I really have appreciated all of that support. Now we can move on to new business. The first item of new business is the consideration and possible action regarding the approval of the agreement for professional services between the Churchill County Library and Patsy Penny Esposito for Penny to serve as the interim director for the Churchill County Library in the amount of $2,000 per month until the library director is appointed. Do we have any questions, concerns, or discussion that we want to take on before we just move to that motion?
I'd like to make a motion. First of all, thank you for stepping up for our community. Anything you need from the board, all you have to do is ask. And the motion is to serve as interim director for the Churchill County Library in the amount of $2,000 per month until the library director is appointed.
Thank you, Sue. So we have a motion to approve that agreement. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Ryan. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. The motion carries. All right. Now we have consideration and possible action regarding the approval of the monthly budget reports for June 2025. Under these, do we have any questions, comments, or concerns that we would like to address?
I would like to make one comment. I want to give a big thank you to Kathy for keeping us under budget this year. I think she did a phenomenal job. And I'm sure Carol and Mel were a part of that as interim directors. So I just wanted to say how thankful I am for that.
I'd also like to see in our report the same thing we got today. It gave me a chance to read it, dive into it, and I want to see everything, and the graphs were amazing.
I appreciate that. Are there any other comments on that or questions that we need before we can take on a motion for approval? All right.
I'll make a motion to approve the monthly budget reports for June 2025 as submitted.
I second it.
Okay, so we have a motion from Ryan and a second from Sue. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, the motion carries. Consideration and possible action regarding the approval of the library gift fund report for June 2025. Is there any inside questions or commentary on that report that any of us have? Hearing none, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to accept that report.
I'll make a motion to approve the library gift fund report for June 2025.
All right, thank you, Sari. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All right, thank you, Ryan. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, the motion carries. All right, last item in this category, consideration and possible action regarding the discussion, direction, and approval of the next steps for appointing or hiring the Churchill County Library Director. In this category, I do have one piece of clarification. Come on ahead, Kim. I had the opportunity to receive a little bit of advisement from legal this week regarding open meeting law. And so as we, just for context, as we were trying to follow precedent and follow the process that had worked well for us in the past, we had given some advisement to Kim as a board to maintain the board or the team structure for vetting those applicants that we had used in the past with Carol. Carol had set that for us from the role of interim director and probably from the role of director in the past as well. Legal was here, and we did the best that we could in that situation, but upon consideration and looking over NRS, our representative felt that we were getting a little close to the line in being that involved in that team of setting or appointing a committee, which would then make that team that is vetting the candidates subject to open meeting law. Because those candidates are in an early vetting process, making all of that public and public record is a little bit more than we would normally ask for in these sorts of situations. We've certainly never done it in the past. We only make public record. Those candidates who have met the requirements make the cut and are recommended up to us. And so there are a few ways to solve this. The one that was recommended to us is to trust Kim to form the team. Having heard all of the conversation that we had had in the last two meetings about our hopes and our values and those sorts of things, and certainly probably already started to make some contacts with people that could be there. We can move to trust her to make that team to vet those and kind of remove it from the situation where we're going to make all of that public. So I wanted to put that in front of the board and let Jeff answer any questions.
I felt uneasy at our last meeting. I don't want to be picking a committee. I want somebody else that has HR experience, because I don't want to say, put so-and-so on it, because then they're going to think that, you know, I have an insight. So I totally agree with this.
I appreciate that, Sue. Does anybody else have any questions about that? Any need for clarification so that we can rely on somebody here that could do that? Any other questions?
I do agree with, I think the process that we went, that we did before with the county HR, bringing forward the recommendations for us to interview, was a great process, and I would be for going with that process again.
Okay. Sarah, you've got your mic on. Did you have a question or a comment?
I'm just confused.
Okay.
So, Jeff, if you can explain what Jessica, because sometimes I need it explained twice to understand.
Of course, I know one thing about Jessica is I can't explain things better than she can, but I'll do my best. And so the open meeting law obviously applies to governing bodies like the library board of directors. And so anytime there's a meeting of a quorum that's going to happen, it has to be publicized, it's got to be agendized, and you know the public needs to be made aware. And so the public meeting law also says that committees and subcommittees of a governing body are also governed by the open meeting law. The open meeting law does not define committee or subcommittee. But it's in Attorney General opinions and different case law, they've discussed this idea that, well, if a committee is going to be appointed, if a group of people are going to be appointed by a governing body, like the library board, and they're going to be making decisions, making recommendations, things like that to a board, then they would be governed by the open meeting law as well. And so for a governing board like this to create a separate committee and say, I want A, B, and C on that committee, it gets into this world of, well, are we just shifting our decision-making to this committee when it needs to be done in an open meeting, rather than saying, look, HR, can you go and vet these, these candidates, these applicants? HR can go and do that however they want, if the board gives them the authority to just bring the names. Kim could go and get some people to help in that process, or not. But if the board is going to be creating that, then we're getting to this, well, there's this committee that's making recommendations or vetting or making decisions and then making those recommendations. And so that's where the rub starts to get a little close.
Okay, so can I kind of repeat the way I understand it to make sure I'm understanding it correctly? So this is just keeping the vetting process private, so it doesn't have to be in a public, open meeting. And we aren't a part of that. As board members, absolutely, we can't make a decision on who Kim gets for this or any of that. Okay, I
Yes.
agree with that.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Right, and to my mind, there are many reasons why a board would create a committee and have the moves of that committee be part of public record. But we're trying to make a good balance here between privacy and professionalism. Because some of these candidates may not make that first cut, they may not be meeting the requirements of the job itself, we want to be able to protect them and honor the fact that they were enthusiastic and expressed an interest to be part of our team without calling them out in front of the public in some of those ways, right? So we're going to, we're going to move to trust our HR to do that first vetting. And then that secondary place where we are going to be interviewing, the public has every right to be able to see all of those pieces of the candidate's credentials and professionality, and that way we're serving our public as well, right? And I think that, for me, because we had followed a process that we had seen in the past, I thought that it was pretty cut and dried, but the fact that that had been initiated by a director or an interim director rather than the board is what made that so different. So as soon as we stepped into that role, we got a little close to nudging what was proper for our open meeting law. And so I'm so glad that Jeff was able to catch that and help me understand that. And I'm really grateful that Kim is in a place where she could help us. She's done us good turns in the past, and we have appreciated them. The rest of that, I mean, we've discussed this process a little bit. Is there anything that you need us to know that might change some of the things we've discussed?
Good afternoon, Kim Brunsma for the record. I don't have any additional information. The process we're following is very similar to what we did last time, and it's a standard process that we use throughout the county. So nothing has changed in that regard as far as the steps and getting to the point where we bring the candidates before you. The outstanding question that I had is that I'm not sure if you guys had determined when you wanted to have the meeting to interview the candidates and what you wanted that piece to look like.
That is, we had a couple of outstanding questions that we'd left at the end of the special board meeting. And the first one was when we would get together for a special session prior to the actual interviewing of the candidates, so that you could let us know what we had and set up those interviews, because there are a lot of moving parts on those big days. We had the closing of the applicant pool is coming up this week. Help me remember, I apologize.
August 5th, so we got about
August
10 more days.
Okay, so we've got 10 days before it closes. You will need some time to review, and we had tentatively discussed the idea of doing the 21st for that special session, and then coming back for our regular meeting on the 28th to do our interviews. Is that correct?
What are we doing the 21st? Why do we need a meeting?
In order to, I apologize, my mind completely went blank, Sue, on this, but what we had been discussing was we do need one meeting for business and one meeting for interviews. Is that correct?
That is up to you.
I wouldn't do that. But you wouldn't give us any of their paperwork until we interview that day, right? Okay, so I don't see a need for a meeting beforehand. We didn't discuss any of the last ones before.
We had a separate session for our interviews because the interviews themselves took some time. And then we'd had, our regular business kind of rolled into the acceptance, I believe.
I believe we wanted to set how many applicants we wanted to interview. And I think we could probably set that today if everybody
I
agrees.
agree, Ryan, and I'm not available on the 21st.
Yeah, I agree that we probably have enough information that we could set a number of candidates that we would like to see, leaving enough leeway that we don't have to come back, that we can give Kim everything that she needs to bring us a number of candidates. We had wanted to be able to see how many people had entered that pool, but it sounds like we have a relatively healthy pool of candidates. Is that correct? So,
Yes, and we continue to get more candidates every day, so.
right. So we've passed the threshold of where we're going to really be squeezing hard. So in the last iteration of this, we'd asked for three, the top three candidates. I think we could go 3 to 5, depending on the quality of the candidates. That is a point of discussion that we could make and probably could decide in our process today.
Well, I'd like to make sure that they have all the degrees that they need to have, number one, and I would only like to interview 3, the top 3 that HR feels would fit our bill.
Does anybody else have anything more that they'd like to say with that?
I would rather go higher than 3, just to see, if there's, through Kim's vetting process, if there is only 3 that absolutely make it through, then yeah, then we stop at 3. But if there's 4 or 5 that are really, really good candidates, I'd hate to say, well, we stop at 3 and that's it, the end. I'd rather see everybody who is, not everybody, but the most eligible ones, and I think I would rather go for more than less, so we would have more options.
I agree with Sari, and I do also, just to confirm, so we're considering, I know we're talking about the number right now, but as far as the meetings, we're considering doing the 21st for the interview, and then the 28th for a regular meeting? Is that what we're considering?
That was part of how I had interpreted it from my memories, but the 21st won't work for Sue. So
That's
we'll
our-
need to find another date
That's
for
our
that
big
interview.
back-to-school night.
So we'll find an amenable date.
Unless you start at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
The first thing that we probably ought to consider is whether or not we want to roll things together and manage business. But the last time we did this, we took the day to do the interviews, allowing the candidates time to tour the library in between. We put our recommendations and our rankings back into the hands of HR, gave them the latitude to approach our candidates in the order of that ranking, discuss offers with them, and then come back to us with the candidate that had accepted the offer. So that's one of those pieces where, to me, it says that two meetings might be appropriate here so that we could accept and approve.
No, let me know if I'm mistaken, but when we did the last one, we had a board meeting before interviews, and then we had that encompassed the with the rules of how we had to interview, and then we adjourned, and then we started the new meeting with the interviews.
You are right. On the day of the interview, we had a brief training from legal and from HR to talk to us about how to appropriately hold those interviews and to be professional with our public. And then we adjourned and then met the candidates after that.
So could we, if everybody's available, just have our board meeting on the 28th? And then adjourn, and then start the interviews.
So have the regularly scheduled board meeting at 3?
No, have it early.
Oh, okay.
So we pick a time to start, like have the board meeting at 8, and then start interviews at 9, or, does that work? Would
28
that,
would work for me, Brian.
I would prefer, if possible, that we do a separate meeting earlier. I think that the situation at the library, perhaps I'm wrong, but my impression is that while everyone is handling it very, very well, and I want to say only good things about the library staff, I do think getting the new director in there sooner would be helpful. So I personally would be willing to meet early, wouldn't have to be on a Thursday, but earlier to get that, just to get the ball rolling. But I'm flexible.
And I could meet earlier too, I just can't do the 21st.
Kim, refresh my memory. You had said you needed a certain amount of time to vet the candidates. How much time do we need to give you for vetting and for contact so that we are taking care of you?
So the vetting, I estimate about a week and a half with the review panel. And then once we get the candidates selected to bring before you, then I need about a week in case they're not local to the area so they can make arrangements to get here.
Then by my count, we're getting to the 28th anyway. We're getting into that week, no matter what, just by the practicalities of the process. And I think that that probably says to me that we don't want to, in trying to hurry and get this filled, we don't want to rush the process. We want to give you enough time to do this well and to not, if we've identified some candidates, to not push them so hard that they can't make it to us either, if they're coming in from out of area.
And Madam Chair, if I may, also in consideration is once travel and whatnot is accommodated in plan, there also need to be the posting of the agenda, the time for that. And that may get complicated. We probably want to wait until we know who's coming and then post that agenda. So that may prolong it a few days as well.
So thank you for taking us well in hand and making sure that we're going step by step in this process. And you can jump in a little bit and help us when we're running a little wild. But that almost says to me that we'll have our regular board meeting, and the better timing for you might be in that following week, that first week of September. Am I reading that correctly? What do you need?
I think the 28th would work fine.
Okay, so if that feels comfortable to you to do something within that week, I think that we have already laid out that time. So the next step on that meeting would be to determine our timing. Crystal, when we did this in the past, we used this room. It helped us accommodate members of the public, and it helped us broadcast out. Is this room available for a broader time frame on the 28th?
So I've displayed the calendar on your screens, and the 28th looks wide open right now. So if you'd like me to reserve a certain time, just let me know.
Yeah, I think that we might say yes and take quite a bit of that time. When we did this the last time, we'd met prior. We came in at about 8:30, and then we started, and we were not out of here until after 4. So we took the day. And I think that we, in all fairness, would probably do the same. We could do our business, our training, and prep ourselves for meeting the candidates, and then start to meet those candidates, move through the day fairly efficiently, make our recommendations, and return our rankings to Kim at the end of that. We would still need a session after the candidate has accepted, hopefully, an offer, right, to approve that candidate. And
Jessica, do you think we need a training again? What was it, 8 months ago? We just have one board member that didn't get the training.
I think it's good hygiene honestly, Sue. I don't know that we need to have something that's intense and in-depth, but we do have one new board member. We have all of us that, it's been more than a year, so,
Has
or
it been
it's
more
been a
than a
year.
year?
Since we started the process, yeah. And so it doesn't hurt to refresh us. An alternative would be we could disseminate information and do our homework ourselves, but they were fairly efficient with us. It didn't take all that long. What do you guys think?
I agree with you, Jessica. I like to hear it again just to make sure that I don't accidentally step over the line, because sometimes I get a little bit ahead of myself. So it's good to have that reminder as we're doing, or right before we do it, so it's fresh on my mind, and it can't be, oh, well, I'm sorry, I forgot. You know, that doesn't fly when you're meeting as a board, so.
I would agree.
I would agree also.
All right, it sounds like we are in a consensus about that, and I think that the two things that were really helpful to me last time was just a quick run-through of the tool that we were using to make our rankings in the first place, that had the questions on it, how to do the rankings, how to think about that, and then how to be professional with our candidates in an open meeting setting, which is a little bit different than a lot of our job interviews. And so I think that we could start with that training session, move into the interviews themselves, give ourselves time for recess, and then, make our rankings, hand them off, and do anything else. If we need to do the board meeting ahead of that, that's fine, or if we need to do that after, I don't think it matters.
Jessica, I'm a little bit worried about having the board meeting on the same day, because the interview process is so intense. I would, going through this 43-page packet, I'm not good at multitasking, and I'd rather just focus on one thing at a time, and the interview process is such a huge process and so big for our community and our library that I would hate to be distracted on something else, even if it is library related.
I hear that, and I agree with you. I'm not someone who juggles all the flaming pins and balls at the same time, at least not with any grace. There is some business that we'll have to do for that library to keep their operations stable and in good kit while we move forward. But we could do them on 2 different days if the rest of the board feels like that is more appropriate. It comes down to the will of the board on that.
And if I may, so sounding like you want to start in the morning of the 28th. I think it could be done where the normal course of business is conducted. I mean, it can be very, very limited if that's what the board wants, to just keep the essentials on there, so that it's the approval of the gift fund, the approval of the monthly budget, and those would typically be shorter. And those could be on there, then jump into the training, take a break, and then move into the interviews. And so that could all be done. That day, if I'm remembering right, is set by the bylaws, that it's the day that the regular meeting is held, is the 4th Thursday of the month. And so that's set by the bylaws, so it could be done, and with an understanding, I think, from staff and everyone, that it's going to be the bare minimum as far as the agenda outside of the interviews. So we're not having another agreement and another, all these other things. Even staff reports could be very limited, if non-existent. If you don't want a director's report, doesn't need to be a director's report, those kind of things, and just keep it brief, rather than having the 2 meetings. So it can be done, however the board wants to go about doing that. But I just wanted to chime in there.
So, thank you for that. So what I'm hearing is, if we decide that we want to have 2 days, don't move the board meeting regular day, right? The other thing I would have a question about would be, if it is set by the bylaws, do we change something to move the time? Our regularly scheduled time is at 3. If we move it to handle it ahead?
Yeah, I can't remember if the bylaws say that it's at 3 o'clock or if it's just the 4th Thursday of the month. I don't have them in front of me.
Yeah.
I can't remember what that says, but.
All right, and then I also don't want to have a chilling effect. If our interim director needs to be able to handle something and that needs to be agendized, if there's a budget request, if there's if there's a point of business that needs to be done that needs the board to weigh in on it, we want to make sure that we are giving space to the operations of the library. So our regular meetings are often 30 minutes to 45 minutes in length. They don't always end up being this large or this long. We don't usually have all of these complexities to handle. I think that physically we could handle it in that day. It sounds like we shouldn't move that day for the regular board meeting unless we have a very, very, very good reason to do so. But I do hear the call of it might be appropriate to focus. So again, as a board, would you like a separate day for the interviews, separate from the regular board meeting session?
I would rather have it all on one day.
Same with me.
I think that for me, even though I do think that it's a lot, and I like the idea of separating them, that if sort of logistics and all of that indicate, as they seem to be doing, that it would be better to just sort of handle it all on that day, I'm okay with that.
Okay. And
You know my opinion, so I don't need to restate it.
yeah, nope, I hear you, and I will suit up and concentrate hard like I'm in graduate school. It'll be good. And I agree. I think that physically, this sort of thing could be done, and it behooves us to be efficient if we can. Other portions of this, there is a planning part of the process that we will need to work with our interim director on in terms of planning out the tours of the library, that kind of conversation that the different candidates have with the space, with the staff, with the public. It's not like these are town meetings, it's much more informal than that, but they do need to go walk around and have a time outside of the meeting to meet the library, right? And so that's another piece of this, this plan that we probably ought to consider. We will be staggering the interviews of the candidates with that tour, and moving forward that way. I mean, does anybody see any problems with that or want to make any nudges to that? Okay. Are you comfortable with that, with some support? Excellent. Okay.
Sorry to chime in one more time. I don't want to add another layer. Let's say Kim reviews these applicants and she picks the 3 to 5, whatever the board wants. And for whatever reason, the 28th is just, it's everyone's back to school night. I don't know what it might be. Is there latitude provided for Kim to set it out a week or within the next week, those kind of things, as far as, I mean, I hate to get 5 candidates and 4 of them say, I can't make it that day. And then we have to have a special board meeting if we're setting it on the 28th. And so just a thought is, does the board want to give, primarily, we're hoping the 28th, but sometime within that and the following week?
I appreciate
Just a
that,
thought,
Jeff.
so we don't have to come back.
You helped us with that last time. We did this last time too, and you said you don't want to have to go away and then have to call everybody back into session to approve a different day. And so I think we did approve a preference for the date as stated, but the latitude to make a limited number of shifts as needed, with the idea that we wanted to get as many together in the same time so that we weren't calling the board in too many times.
And I do not want to participate in a Zoom call. I need to have the people here.
Okay, so that in-person session is maintained, yeah. So that would say we need to make sure that we give Kim and her team the latitude to schedule with these candidates so that they can be here physically to meet with us. How did we handle the communication on that? Because we will not know that. We have no meeting in between. I think the last time We handled that because we had a meeting prior to the interviews, and we were informed.
How did we handle the communication with the board in setting that?
Correct. If Kim finds that we have one candidate that can come on the 28th, then two that can come on the 27th.
Yeah, I mean, preferably and ideally, they'd all be on the same day, whatever that can be organized. Otherwise, we got to agendize, two different meetings or whatever it is. I mean, if the board provides the latitude to set it, I mean, obviously, we're not setting it January, right? But set it within the time that the board feels comfortable. I think that can be set through coordination from Kim to each of the board members, just checking, are you available this date? Individually, one-on-one, just to see what would work if that 28th does not work. And just so the board knows, Pam Moore, I think, is listening in, and she sent a picture of the bylaws, and I think it says that it's just the date that it said, it's not the time. And then I think it even has a clause, what did it say, or, what did it say? It's just the date or as set by the board, so.
Or as set by the board, so we could make a change if we had to. But in looking at your calendars, my fellows, is there anything in that week that would take a date off of our ability? If Kim needed if Kim needed the latitude, I could move anything around throughout that week and give priority to this, with the idea that we're going to try to get as many candidates together on the same day.
I would say minus Monday, which is Labor Day. So Tuesday through Friday, I'm good.
I'm looking at the last week of August.
Oh,
So from the 25th through the 29th.
I am not available on the 29th.
Okay.
So I would say go to the second. If we can't make it work on the 28th, we push it to the first week of September.
I agree.
And it's not up there. The agenda for the next week, I'm just looking at the calendar for the board. Here it is. So this is that following week, and so that Friday may be the next best option.
I can't do that Friday.
But, or what's Tuesday? Tuesday's open as well. There's the Parks and Rec meeting, but that's not until 6 p.m. And
Okay.
so maybe that Tuesday is the next best option.
That worked for me.
All right, so we have some open spaces in that last week of August and that first week of September. It looks like Tuesday is another good date. And so that should give you a few dates, barring Friday the 29th, which, seems to have some conflicts on it, and barring Monday of Labor Day, which seems to have a conflict on it. It looks like we could support with our schedules the latitude that's needed for the county to schedule both the candidates and the room. And then just keep that regularly scheduled board meeting on the 28th, no matter what. Does that feel fair? Okay, so we've got a generally stated 3 to 5 candidates with a preference for 3, but latitude, if you see some that are all equally shiny, right? We have some dates that are under discussion with the preference of getting as many candidates on the same day as possible and running through the day. A training to precede the interviews, using the tools that the county has provided to rank and to vet, and then giving the county the latitude to make the offers as we did in the past. What am I missing? Is there anything more in this process that you need, Kim, or that legal can see so that we don't have to vet it one more time?
I would like to say that if we had a great candidate who really could not get here, I would really like to be able to consider interviewing virtually. I think that it's a lot to ask, that's Labor Day weekend. I think it's a lot to ask that they come specifically during this very short period of time that isn't all that far in the future. So I just want to make the comment that I would be willing to interview virtually.
I would not. My experience with Zoom meetings and interviews, I want to see that person. I want to see how they interact with our community that's here, because it'll be an open meeting. And I don't want to just see a picture.
So we've got some healthy discussion going on here about if in a special case, we want to be able to open up for the possibility of a virtual interview. Anybody else have opinions on that front?
I would have to agree with Sue.
That's a first. Oh, sorry. Is that okay I said that?
Just because if we do have somebody that we like on Zoom and the board agrees this person, but then they come to Fallon and then they've never been here and they're the top candidate, they come here and they leave. Now we're back in the same position we're at today. I feel that all candidates should be in person in this room and in front of the board doing the interview.
I agree with Ryan, especially with the candidate coming here and seeing all that Fallon has to offer, because not everybody loves it as much as I do, but hopefully a lot will. I think it's good for them to get a little taste of our community and everything we have to offer, rather than just, well, I can handle it. And then they come here and they're all, whoa, this is so not what I was expecting.
Well, I appreciate that. That brings us to a consensus, I think. I think that the question I had was similar to what Sari had. I'm not sure how to really get them a feel for the tour of the library and our community and our staff if they're joining us virtually. But I have had very successful candidates come through a virtual medium, and I know that sometimes there are some extreme cases. So I think the board is pretty unified in wanting to see those be in person. We've given some latitude of dates, and we're willing to entertain more. I mean, if Kim were to see an excellent prospect that couldn't make it within those dates, I would hope that being able to reach back out and say to the board, hey, would you take the Monday following the week that you'd mentioned? Could we, those kinds of negotiations would be ways that we could show some flexibility to incoming excellent candidates, but still get them here in person and meet some of the stated needs for letting them meet us. All right. Any other pieces that we could help clarify or describe in the process before we do a motion to approve the process as described?
I had one comment on the job description. I read it and it says require certificates, licenses, and registrations, Nevada's driver's license. And so I was a little bit worried on that, because obviously you said we've had quite a few people apply. I was just worried that since this is a national job search, that people would be all, oh, nuts, my license is from New Jersey, I can't apply, so I was, but I don't even know if that's something to worry about.
Jeff, would you mind hitting cross-state licensure?
Yeah, I mean, I can't, you're talking just the driver's license piece? I mean, I can't talk as to what people might read into or understand. I mean, it is a requirement if you live in Nevada that you have a Nevada driver's license, if you do have a driver's license. And so that has to be changed over pretty quickly. I don't see any legal concern with the posting as it is, with the language as it is, but yeah.
Yeah, ideally, our candidates would have the ability to get a driver's license in our state when they locate into our state. If there's anything that would keep them from being able to do so, then we'd probably want to know that. But otherwise, good candidates, good candidates.
Okay, I was just nitpicking. I was worried that people would take it too literally and then not apply, but thank you.
Is there anything else that we can offer to you, Kim, to support you from our angle?
No, I think this is good.
Kim, thank you for all your work.
As always, thank you so much. We appreciate you moving so quickly with this and being so open to tell us what you need with this and to educate us when we need it. We appreciate it. Is there any other item for discussion here? Any questions or concerns? Or are we ready for a motion to accept the process as we have described?
Before the motion's made, what time do we want to start on the 28th?
I am comfortable letting that be determined by the scheduling of the interviews with the candidates, and have that communicated out to us. Last time we started, I think it was 8:30 for the training and 9 for everything else, but it's in the
If I
distant
may,
past.
you are on the schedule at 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. on
Perfect.
8/28.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was 8:30 or 9, but it was somewhere around there. And it'll probably depend on if there's 3 candidates to interview or 5 candidates to interview. That may change.
Yeah, so I think that that might be a question that we'll need to just allow for communication to us to let the scheduling run its course, and let us know within that window how much of that day we're going to be here. And then everybody pack a granola bar and some good snacks. Any other questions or discussion? That was a good one. I am ready to entertain a motion if you're ready to make it.
I'll make a motion, sorry, Ryan, I'll make a motion to accept the discussion, direction, and approval of the next steps for appointing, hiring the Churchill County Library Director as we have just discussed.
Thank you, Sari. Is there anybody that is willing to make a second of that motion?
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Ryan. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. The motion carries. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Kim. All right, so now we have time for the library director's report.
Okay, green means go. I'm apologize for the tardiness of my report, but I wasn't entirely sure what I would be doing. So I would think if y'all had a chance to look at that, do you have any questions?
I really appreciate the graphs, and I would like to see the same information come to us, not just in the past, we've got this for that. And I want it to, because when we look at the budget, I want to see where the money went, not just $2,000. So I appreciate that. Great report.
I'll pass that on to Jay because she doesn't know, but she's she's the leader of that pack.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think that you need to be apologizing for any tardiness. I think that you've given us a lot of great information, and you have had your hands full getting into the job itself. So I was really appreciative of the information that you provided us with, and with all of that granularity and clarity. You've been giving us some specifics there, and I'm not sure if I would have been able to do it with that level, given the time constraints that you had. And the constraints of me not answering as quickly either, yeah.
Right. So the idea came up that maybe somebody might want to ask where this 20% on the budget came from. And here's my fancy formula. Are you ready? 100 divided by 12 is 8.3, 12 months in the year. 8.3 times 3 months, which is the first quarter, is, oh, where's my cheat sheet? Here we are, 25%. So my thought was if I release 20% of these funds to have available to them until September 30, that's using 5% less than the whole quarter, so that they can begin, bringing those collections up to date. I cannot underestimate, cannot overstate how wonderful the staff has been, and they're just kind of like this, smooth, well-oiled machine, and the county is extremely lucky. We are extremely lucky to have two masters in the house and this creativity, and every one of them have taken on additional duties that are not part of their job description. So I feel like the least we could do is let them begin to expend the funds for collections, because that's what it's budgeted for, to let them feel a bit empowered, you know, so. I did have a few other pieces of information, just FYIs, if it's, can I do that? Okay. Jamie will be coming over tomorrow, so we'll have a little educational process on how to do invoices, and so we can, you know, get bills paid. I did attend the quarterly directors roundtable for the State of Nevada Library, the Nevada State Library. I did mention and share out that we have this open position amongst, there were about 40 professionals on site, so thought that would be good. For future consideration, there are a number of databases that the Nevada State Library has supported through grants and federal funding and whatnot. And we're okay for now. In those databases are some examples would be BLM, different factors of that, grants.gov. There's a gov info that just has lots of historical data and newspapers across the state. So that funding is secure for now. However, as things progress in the current administration, they're working on a backup plan, kind of presuming that that's going to go away. And if that happens, then on a local basis, we would be asked to try and contribute funding through a consortium or you know, they don't know what that looks like, but that's just for the back of your brain there.
Do we have a grant writer in the county?
Louise Spross was the kind of the grant writer for social services. Because her husband was hired as the county manager, she could not be in that position anymore. So it was recently moved into the district attorney's office. So Ms. Spross has moved, and it's going to be a more kind of broad county grant specialist and financial specialist. And so yes, there is someone in the county who kind of deals with that. It's a kind of a newer moved position with a broader application, but yes.
I think it's really important because I see a lot of different entities in our community that drop the ball when it comes to grant writing.
And then, of course, Shakespeare is in the house today.
I saw that.
But that's all I have. If any questions from anybody?
Again, I just want to thank you for, I mean, when I came in your office and saw your to-do notes, I went, yeah. And what about this? What about that? We're going to do this. We're going to do that. The staff was happy. The people that in there were happy. Thank you so much for stepping up, Patsy.
Well, thank you. It is my pleasure to have this opportunity to just be a little bit of a bridge, and it keeps my brain working. You know, that's not bad either.
Yeah, I want to say thank you again, as everyone keeps repeating. And I want to say, based on your notes here, it looks like you are doing a great job reaching out to the resources available, like Mel, and you know, you're talking to a lot of people, and I think that is really great. And I think that's exactly what the type of thing that you need to be doing there. And I just think you're doing a great job.
Great,
So,
thank you.
thank you.
Penny, I was excited by your 20%. I'm glad that you are being conscious of the library's needs, but also keeping a tight fist on the budget. I'm really thankful for that 20%, but not the 5%, you know, because that adds up to 20% at the end of the year, that in case other things start costing more, we have a little bit of leeway to play with. I also really am thankful that you have on your report how you're going to meet with the JPO and learn about the school schedule when that starts in. I'm very thankful that you are considering our future at the library rather than just getting through the summer, and I'm glad you're scheduling out for things to come. So thank you for that.
A side note to that, Tom, the digital services librarian, deserves the credit for that. He got that meeting all set up. We did meet yesterday, and there's a clear consensus. Mel from the museum came over. Nick was there from JPO. The deputy chief, Julia, I apologize if I misspoke her name, was there. We did try to contact the principal at the junior high, but they're not back in-house yet. So he learned today that they'll be back in on the 18th, so we'll make contact with the leadership there as well. But I think I did a good job of, synopsizing what our plan is. So we are going to, hopefully find some other ways to communicate this out so it's not a big, what are you doing blocking this one lane, so.
I appreciated that early move to work with the schools and to get ready for the schools. I think that one of the things that helped us with communication when the school was in session was the school themselves have some communication mechanisms that they can push out to the parents, and I think that was a turning point for us. Not probably the first one, but maybe the third or fourth time they sent out information.
Is Mel going to make those posters? Is that what I understood?
Yes.
Okay, because if we upfront it with expectations for kids, they know it on the very first day. You talk to them, here's what I expect, and if you don't do that, you're going to leave. They'll know. And I think that's a great idea.
I agree. I think it would be great to have expectations.
Oh, yeah,
posted.
the messages
It's great.
have to be communicated in many forms because we all learn differently. I know that Tom looked into a digital board, which are really expensive for messaging. But I've kind of been tossing around the idea, the old school sandwich board that could be put there and have that message large and in charge. But then, story time days or, because not everybody uses the website, not everybody steps into the library. But if they knew, and a lot of people drive by there, especially during school, so we'll toss that around and see.
Thank you.
I appreciate everything that you've given us. I appreciate the energy that you've given jumping into the job. And then if there's anything that you need help with, let us know. I mean, we're here to help approve those larger budget requests. If something comes up, we're here to help with any of those other policy pieces that you might need to support you. So as you see things going forward, make sure that you're working with us to get onto the agenda so that we can be there to support you too. And Jeff has offered his support to help with the agenda as well.
Everybody's been wonderful, so, you couldn't ask for any more between you folks here and in the library, and everybody's on the same page. We want a beautiful community location that we can do all sorts of great things at, so.
Excellent. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. We'll let you off the hot seat. Okay, so we have this item to set the date and time of the regular special library board meeting. August 28th is set. We probably ought to communicate to our public when that meeting's going to be. So I would say that the question would be, do we want to have that before we do the interviews, at which point we could set it at 9 in the morning if we needed to, or 8 in the morning? Or are we comfortable leaving it at 3, adjourning from our interviews for a little bit and having the session? What do you guys think?
I would set the meeting in the morning, 8 o'clock, and then on the agenda having the training at the end of the board meeting for the interviews.
And then the interviews too.
And then we break.
Is everybody comfortable with that?
I'm just a little bit confused. Since we gave Ms. Kim latitude in case people can't make it, should we have two separate, yes, we'll do August 28th for our regular board meeting at 8 in the morning, but if the interview process doesn't go on, then we'll set it at 3? Should we have leeway or no, just keep it
No,
8?
I probably wasn't particularly clear. It was more of a question of when do you want that meeting? Do you want it at our regular time or do you want it ahead of the interviews? But let's set one time for that regular board meeting so that we can communicate it out and make sure that the public knows when it's coming.
Okay. Then I'm going with Ryan. You said 8, right? Okay.
I agree that the morning would work well.
All right, so I think that we'll set that as August 28th, 8 in the morning, barring any concerns from legal.
No legal concerns. I know when the county commissioners have their early meetings, I think they set them at 8:15 just to allow staff to get here and get things set up and running and
Perfect.
rolling without doing overtime, things like that. And so 8:15 may be a good time, but whenever the board wants it.
We are happy for the 15 minutes, and we are more than happy to support the staff having their coffee in hand and ready for us. So 8:15 sounds good. Do we need a motion for that, or we're good? Okay, I always ask that. All right, so that brings us to our last public comment. Is there anybody that would like to make a public comment at this time?
Crystal Machado for the record. It's been a minute since I sat in on or clerked a meeting. I just wanted to verify that on our first and second motion, item number 6, where you did a motion and voted on the agenda as submitted or revised. Could I verify who first and seconded that motion or the vote?
I made the motion to approve the revised agenda.
Perfect. And second?
I did not note that second down.
I didn't
But-
note it down. Everyone after that.
It was, I wrote down Sue, but I just wanted to make sure that I did do that correctly. Okay. And
Sue
then
confirms.
Okay, and then same for the minutes, since they were withdrawn.
We did not, we didn't do anything with that because the minutes were withdrawn, so we
And-
skipped that piece for next meeting. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. That's all I needed to verify. Thank you.
Thanks, Crystal. I appreciate it. All right, any other public comment at this time? Hearing none, we can adjourn. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.